Welcome. My name is Rick Rugg, and I am the sales account manager for Lely North America in the Midwestern part of the United States. And we welcome you to this episode of Coffee Talk. And today we have with us Charlie Knigge from Omro, Wisconsin. And many of you have probably already heard the Knigge name. They were, the unique thing about the Knigge family is that they were the very first users of robots in not only the state of Wisconsin, but in the United States. So they're a unique dairy family in that they have nearly 2 decades or just a little over 2 decades of experience with robotic milking. So we felt during this coffee talk episode that it would be good to sort of talk a little bit about history and where it's all started in the United States, and 20 years later, how did we get to where we're at today? Yep. And so they have, with Charlie, they got basically 3 generations that have been involved with the technology over the 2 decade or the 20 plus years. And Charlie's dad, Charlie's dad, Pete, and then you have his son, Jacob, that are 3 generations. And over those 3 generations, we've had 5 generations of improvements or 5 generations of robots at Lely. And the Knigge families were involved with the A2, and then 20 years later, here they are putting in the A5. So they've expanded over the generations, not only with their family, but also with 5 generations of robots. And one of the goals that Lely has, they always try hard from each generation of robots, they try hard to make sure that they keep 2 things in mind as far as the engineers are concerned. One would be that they always try to make it more economically feasible so more producers can get accustomed to the technology, to the robots. And then the second thing is that they really work on the reliability, that if you have a piece of equipment that's going to run 24 hours a day, that we make sure that that is a very reliable piece of equipment. And so those are 2 things that we're going to focus on this morning or today with our Coffee Talk episode. So again, I'm going to welcome Charlie to the panel. And Charlie, maybe before we get going, if you could give a little brief description of the dairy and of the family situation where you are 2 decades later.
Yeah, we're running about 360 acres of cropland, do some custom harvesting and planting, but the main focus is dairy. Started out, like Rick said, in 2000 with A2 robots, and not knowing the Lely company at that time, they were new to the U.S. and new to us. A lot of growing. It started out with they were concerned about making sure the robots worked, did their best there. We had service technicians rotating out of Canada to service our robots, keep us milking. To now the whole scope of how the farm operates with Lely, from farm management support to how to lay out barns better and really make things great. It was a neat journey to watch Lely grow and our farm grow also.
Yeah, awesome, Charlie. And over those course of the last 20 plus years, I think you've have personal experience with 3 generation robots, the A2s, the A3s, and now just recently the A5s.
Yeah.
And so can you give your opinion on going all the way from the A2s, how long you had them, and what the situation was with your A3s, and then how you got to your A5 today?
Yeah. Started out with the A2s. We ran those about 10 years. We built a brand new barn and for the robots. And so at 10 years, Lely came to us wanting to have us switch out of the A2s. There was only a few farms in the US using A2 robots, and they had gone to the dealership network. Didn't want to train the dealer to work on an A2 when there's no other A2s around. And so we were able to trade those in to Lely and got us into the A3s, A3 next. A lot of, at 10 years on the A2s, it was time to let them go. There were being a lot of work. We weren't doing maintenance like we should have. But now working with the dealership, the A3s at 10 years, they're working fine. It's just helping other farms and startups, seeing the A5s work, realizing the technology improvements, that we really wanted to take advantage of that. And so we were able to sell our A3s to another farmer. I think they went to Iowa. And now we've been just about 2 months milking with the A5s. And it's been a great journey. And I'm really excited about less maintenance. Some of the common wear problems or issues that do come up, you can see are eliminated on the A5 compared to the A3. And so really excited for the longevity of this. Whether 10 years will be replaced in the A5s again, or if we can get some more years out of them, but it's all what's coming with technology, and want to kind of stay on the front of that instead of the back end of it.
Yeah, so along with that, I mean, one of the common questions we always get and that you hear out in the field is, how long do robots last? And a simple short answer to that is that they're engineered for 20-ish years, somewhere between 15 to 20 years is sort of what they're engineered with. So in your situation, you got 20 plus years now, and you've went through 3 generations of robots. Is that something you see would be common, or how would you look at that and view that in your opinion?
We're probably a little aggressive on switching out robots and staying with the newest model. Skip the A4s just because I didn't see the advantage there. But really, they're working good, and it's exciting. The new technology that's coming with them has really got me excited. The different things we can do with them, and I'm curious to see what's in the future that the A5s can unlock and do for us.
So with these A5s, you've installed A5s, what, about 2 months ago, Charlie?
Yes. Yep.
So realizing you only got 2 months of experience in there, but what would you say is a huge difference between the 3rd generation and the A5 generation with the robots? What's the top 3 things that have really sort of stick to your mind right now?
Yeah. Our biggest switch from the 2s to the 3s, they were in the same area of the barn. The A5s, we went to a different location, added basically two dog houses on the side of the barn, put the robots there. And so wide open. We've got a training pen, but then the main entry is wide open to the barn. With our old setup, everybody went through a fetch pen to go through the milker. So the free flow traffic, I'm really excited about that. The other thing that just blows my mind is how quiet the milkers are. The A3s and A4s, if everybody's around them, you know the noise the arm makes when it moves. The A3s especially, everything is air operated and has a distinct sound. And you get used to that. You can hear something doesn't sound right, but you knew the robot in and out. Now the A5s, it's like you got to look and see if the arm's moving because you don't hear anything. And new heifers, the transition, the cows, about 5 days, all it took to get the cows doing better, more visits than what they were with the A3s. So that was huge. Milk quality aspect of it, we've got MQCCs, the cell counters on. We had them on the A3s, now we have them on the A5s. So that's another great technology for us. And then we opted to keep scales on the A5s too, just for tracking body weight. But just the more wide open, some common problems that we saw on the A3s are eliminated on the A5s. The pre-milk device is totally different, which that's always been a issue on our A3s, and we dealt with it, but now it's a completely different idea. So, and the shutoff sleeves and stuff like that, some really neat stuff they did. So really excited to see what these will be years down the road. I mean, being 2 months in, it's going great, but it's a new piece of equipment too, so it should work.
So one of the things you mentioned, Charlie, is for us that have been in the robot world for quite some time now, when you talk free flow and then semi-guided flow or force flow,
Yeah.
you actually started out with a guided flow or a force flow kind of a system in your with the A2s, and I think you used a hybrid portion of that with your A3s.
Yeah.
Now you've moved in the last 2 months, you've moved to a completely free flow environment. Maybe you could tell our people out there what your thoughts are going from you did it before, or you know the way you used to do it to where you're doing it today, as far as free flow versus force flow or guided flow.
Yep. Yeah, like you said, we started out with a force flow barn. not knowing anything about feeding, how to get the cows attracted to the robots, actually are to train the herd the first time around was not fun. What takes people months now took us years, trying to get the correlation of what to feed in the bunk, what to feed in the robot. Just didn't have a good handle on that. Lely was working on it. We were working on it, and it was just a struggle. Um, but now with everybody understanding what to feed in the bunk, what to feed in the robot, cows train very fast. Um, and in my opinion, guided flow or forced flow doesn't. You don't need to do it. The cows, our barn's wide open now, and we've got more visits to the milk room than we've seen ever. And just kind of letting the cows do their own thing. And that's it's amazing watching the cows just sit back. We've got a training pen, so it's a dual entry on the robot. And it's amazing how many cows will still walk into that training pen and then walk into the robot instead of just, hey, you can walk straight in. But it's just neat watching different cows do different things. And it's always kind of the same cows doing the same things at the same time of the day. So it's really fun just sitting back and watching machines work and watching the herd do its thing and live their life. So
Yeah, sort of letting cows be cows. And
yeah,
so they can lay down, they can eat, and then they can get milked whenever they want to, through the
yep,
course of the day, where they don't have to worry about going through gates and so on. So, and I believe in one of our recent discussions, Charlie, you had mentioned that even though you've only been in those A5s for a couple months, that you're already seeing an improvement in production.
yeah. We're up in milk, up in visits. The average cow's going through the milking stall about a little over 5 times a day, getting milk just about 3, and then a couple more refusals a day, which just the traffic is just mind-boggling to me. And it really boils down to the wide open aspect of the robots, not having them go into a fetch area to go into the milker. That you'll see a lot of cows will walk up and there's cows waiting. They just walk past. They come back later, and just I've seen a lot of barns that way. We made our system work for 20 years, and really questioned is the open concept going to really benefit us that much more? It was a lot of remodel we had to do in the barn to make it work, and 2 months in, I think it was definitely worth it. And you get everybody from Lely and everybody from our dealership telling us you got to do that. That'll really make a difference. And you start looking at the numbers and like, well, is it really going to pay off? And I'm impressed with just cow traffic, cow visits, and that translates into more milk. So,
Awesome. Awesome. So one of the big differences between the A3 and the A5, between those generation robots, is the way that the cows enter and exit into the
yep,
robot. And we call that, used to be K flow, where you sort of come in like a K, where you come in from the side and then enter out the side, or exit out the side. And now with our I flow, when the cows actually enter the robot from the rear end and they exit from the front. What is your opinion on what you've seen throughout the years as far as the K flow and the I flow?
the K flow worked great. The cows got used to it. It wasn't, I don't think, as natural as what the I flow is. But we also learned cows can count. I mean, every robot's got an exit reminder on it to, hey, it's the gate's open, it's time to leave, stop, eat, and feed, and get out of there. And it was impressive that the cows know how much time they had. And now with the I flow, like you're talking, um, the feed bowl leaves. The cows have nothing else to do, so it's rare that bowl opens up and they're not walking out. And so just a few seconds every milking, it doesn't sound like a lot till you add it up all day long. And so it just translates into more time for that milker to actually harvesting milk from cows than waiting 20 seconds for a cow to leave or whatever you have it set for. And so I just the little things that it's more natural, I think, for the cow to walk straight in, straight out. Um, they're not a chance of trying to turn and slip or something. It's just it's fluid for the cows. So it it's a good improvement, I think.
Great, great. So the other thing, maybe a little bit on some differences, is when you're in the robot room and you actually look at the E-Link or the screen on the robot, what are the differences that you've seen between the past generation robots and the A5s?
Yeah, actually, like you're talking, we've gone through 3 generations of E-links on the robots, going from the A2 now to the A5. Really like how visual the A5 is. I mean, seeing how much milk is being harvested from every quarter, the time, it's just the A3, the information was there, but it wasn't visual. And so it really, everybody likes looking at the pictures and understanding them quicker. And so it's more user friendly, I think. I like the display. It seems to work well. It gives you the information you need to see at a glance and not having to read lines to see exactly what it is. You got the picture showing you. So
Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing some of those differences with us between the A3 and the A5 as far as making the robots a little bit more cow friendly as well as user friendly.
Yep.
And then if we could shift a little bit over into the economics of it all right now. And so
Yep.
throughout the course of the years, we always try to make them more economically feasible. What have you seen in this A5 technology that, in your opinion, that will really assist and help you in the operating cost side of things?
yeah. First thing that pops in my head is air compressor runtime. I mean, air compressor was always running the A3s, everything's air operated, and now got electric motors running everything. So that should translate into more longevity of an air compressor, not having to replace those. So I'm excited about that. Um, and yeah, 2 months in, it's hard. We haven't tracked energy usage or anything yet, but I mean, everything you guys are telling us that it'll be better. So we're excited to see what it is. And the other huge benefit, I didn't think I mentioned yet, is just connection time.
Yeah.
The old robot, I mean, the A3 would go and it would scan, it would attach. This one, you got to watch quick because it's on the cow, milking the cow. And just the auto connect for fresh heifers and fresh cows, one button, press it, and it's going to get the milker on the cow and start milking instead of getting the arm positioned in the right spot and lining the laser up. You don't need to do that anymore. It's rare we ever have to rescan a cow, that you just use the auto connect feature and let it go. And it really, and even the heifers are standing still, the cows are standing still, and it's just amazing how quick that it learns the cow and gets going, gets milking.
So are you okay with visiting a little bit about the residual values of these robots? I mean, you're in your third generation, so that means you had to do something with your first generation robots, the A2s, and as well as with these A3s. So
Yeah.
what was the residual value, or how did that factor into the economics of upgrading into these new generations when they're available?
Yeah. Going from the twos to the threes, Lely actually purchased those back. We got about half the value out of the milkers. Um, Part of that was they wanted them out of the US, didn't want to train the dealer and everything, which I understand. Um, Now the A3 to the A5, we actually sold those outright, and we got about a quarter of the value of what we paid for them to start with. So a little less, but also 2 generations older. Not, I mean, they're A3s, but still great milkers. But yeah, the A4s, a lot of A4s out there for sale, and but I was happy with we got something out of them. It wasn't a fact that at 10 years haul them to the scrapyard. I mean, there still is some value in that. That's a benefit, I think. So
Yeah, and I actually think those A2s, now that I think about it, when we think back, I believe we wanted to become A2 free, like what you said, but our goal was to, and I think those robots actually ended up in Canada.
yeah,
Those A2s
yeah.
and they're cows up in Canada today. So
I believe Dad has talked to the farmer that has them, or has in the past 5, 10 years ran into him somewhere and realized that was the farmer that has our A2 robots. So it's really kind of neat that I believe they're still working. So
awesome, awesome. So what's next? I know you've got some calms and you're looking at some other technology, but what's next for the Knigge family before we close out here, Charlie?
a nice warm beach somewhere would be great. Yeah, like you said,
Hey,
yeah, about 8 years ago, we built a new calf barn and put the calm in there, calf feeder, and very pleased with that. We've actually got a new one ordered, kind of the same deal, newer options, newer technology. We're excited about. Waiting for that one. Got the cow brushes in the barn. We got the Juno pushing up feed. Um, but then now with the A5s, I believe more capacity. My barn's getting small, so actually looking at moving dry cows out of the barn, building an addition for the dry cows, but then also possibly looking at putting the vector feeding system on in that edition also. I had the opportunity to visit a few farms using it. Really excited about the idea of more flexibility for us. Keep the feed kitchen full, but that doesn't have to be 7 o'clock every morning. Me and Dad right now every morning we mix feed, and anywhere from 2 to 4 batches of feed takes an hour, hour and a half, both of us to get it done. And like the robots milking the cows, if we can use some automation to feed the cows, it's a win-win for us. And so just in the early stages now of getting some prices together, getting some building costs together, but really excited to see what that'll turn out for us. And then not realizing that it can feed more than just the milk cows. We've got a couple outbuildings with heifers, and realizing that that's very doable to go out and feed those barns also, not just having to feed the milk herd, and then we still got to feed young stock. So excited, kind of waiting to see where everything falls in number wise and budget wise, and but probably will happen in the future. So
Awesome. Well, Charlie, I think our time is probably past due right now, but it's how time flies when you're having fun, and it's certainly was enjoyed the opportunity to visit with you and a little bit about the history of the Knigge family and your exposure to robots over the last 20 plus years. So on behalf of Lely, we certainly thank you for everything you've done and for all your support with Lely. So thank you for joining us today in with this coffee talk session. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact your local Lely Center, or you can get a hold of us by subscribing to www.coffeetalks.lelylife.com. Thank you. Thank you again, Charlie.
yep, thank you, Rick.